Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today we have another exciting guest, Alternative Parties friends. We have an individual named Hannah, and she's a leader in the Libertarian Party. So she's going to talk to us about her branch, and she's going to tell us all the exciting things she's doing. So welcome to the podcast, Hannah.
Thanks for having me.
We are glad to have you. Let's get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Hannah Goodman. I am currently serving as the Vice Chairman of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, but I also chair my own Libertarian Party development group here in the northeastern corner of Colorado called Phillips County, and we're currently developing libertarianism out in this rural area of Colorado. I'm a very well-known activist out here in Phillips County. I've spearheaded many different projects geared towards liberty and the protection of rights, and I can tell you all about that whenever you're ready.
Yes, we want to hear about that during the interview today. That'd be awesome.
Okay, great. Well, in 2020, I ran for our local city council. I didn't end up winning because we're so rural. I actually lost to my cousin, which is kind of funny. But
oh no,
during that time, the local city council decided that they wanted to ban all livestock, do a blanket ban here in town. Well, I happened to be going to all the city council meetings, and on the bottom of the agenda it said at the very next meeting that it would, basically they would be voting on this particular motion that had been made. And the motion was specifically like blanketing all of the livestock. And in Holyoke, there's different districts, and there's A1, there's A2, and there's C1 and C2. And then there's Bs, but those are all like our commercial, like businesses and stuff. So they weren't necessarily affected. But in the zones A1 and A2, there's already an ordinance on the books since the time of my third great-grandfather that you could have small livestock like goats, pigs, chickens, and different fowls, rabbits. And in the ordinance it said you could have a limit of 5 animals per pen, meaning that the animals needed to be enclosed. And that's fine. In C1 and C2 on the outer edges of town, because we're rural and very east, we have some fields and some bigger properties with you could have horses and cattle and some of the larger livestock. But during 2020, one of the councilmen introduced this motion to get rid of all of that. And the city themselves actually, around our water treatment, has a huge population of goats because they help keep weeds down and they help with the water treatment process out here. So they would essentially be shooting themselves in the foot if this had passed, because they'd have to get rid of their own goats or not follow the law, and that would be stupid. So anyhow, I went out into the community and I went to like our hardware stores and our feed stores, and I asked them, do you provide things to make pens for animals, chicken coops, things like that? Do you supply feed to these, people who do these things? And they all said yes. And so then I started putting flyers up in the businesses, letting people know about the legislation that was going to be passed. And also then it put the word out into the community that these things were going on. I was directed to another lady who had been fighting the legislation for 7 years prior because they really started targeting her and her chickens when she lived in an A1 zoned district in town. And she had fought them off by herself for 7 years. Well, I was pointed in her direction, so I knocked on her door and I was like, hey, I heard you have some experience with this. And she was overwhelmed that somebody would step up and help her. And long story short, we ended up getting a petition circulating with 1,500 signatures, and we had overflowed the city council chambers, which are not very big, but we managed to get 47 people in there, and 2 armed cops, because they were pretty nervous about how agitated people may get. And with this, they ended up tabling it indefinitely, so it was completely squashed. And that's really where I started making a name for the Libertarians here in Phillips County. Fast forward to 2021, and we were facing healthcare mandates like most people in most states and most counties. And there was some healthcare workers who had kind of sort of banded together and wanted to at least be able to have the freedom of choice on whether or not they would receive certain procedures. And they were threatened by the hospital that if they were to speak out and fight this publicly, they would all be fired, regardless of whether or not they complied. So I got a knock on my door, and they said, hey, would you want to give a voice to the healthcare workers and the teachers in the area who would like to have their voice heard on the option to have a choice rather than a mandate? And would you ask the county commissioners in a hearing if they would declare Phillips County a healthcare mandate sanctuary county? And I said, absolutely. So we showed up to the county commissioner hearing with about 35 people, and I presented a really solid economic argument to our county commissioners about why choice is important, what happens with our already struggling infrastructure with healthcare and teachers. We basically can't keep staff in those positions already. Why are we going to shrink this pool of people who are qualified? Like, it's just going to domino effect and create, eventually, if enough people quit at the hospital, they'll have to shut the hospital down. And that's really hard on a small, really rural community. So we showed up, we tried to get them and pressure our commissioners to do that. They ended up declining. I even worked with our local GOP here in Phillips County to try and pressure our commissioners into that. And even with the help of the local GOP here, we still weren't able to get that done. But at least it got the word out that, hey, the Libertarians, they show up and they pressure people and they try to get things done. So those are just 2 examples of some of the activism that we've done here in the county.
That is good. Good to hear about all that. So you mentioned that you're vice chair of the party in Colorado itself and also the chair of your county party. Kindly describe the responsibilities that those roles have.
So for being the chair of the development group, it's my responsibility to try and get the word out about libertarianism in my community. And ultimately, my goal is to start flipping voters and getting independents or anyone else to start registering as a libertarian here in Phillips County. Once we have enough people, we can decide if we want to affiliate, and then I would step up into the chair of county affiliate. I'm not quite there yet, but we are working on that. Now, for Vice Chairman of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, my responsibility is to support and assist the chair of the party and work with all the directors and make sure that they all stay on task and that we're all adhering to the vision of the state affiliate. And it's been really fun taking that on. I'm currently running for chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and the election would be in 2023.
Okay. That sounds like a good thing to do. Sounds
Yeah,
like
yes,
you
I'm
got
very well
experience.
liked in the state by many members of the party, and I really hope that I can further represent them by stepping into the role as chair.
Sure. So the group that we're talking about in Phillips County, you said it's a development group. How does the process of developing a local branch, what does that entail?
Well, I'm working on doing some outreach events.
Okay.
We're a really small county. We have like 5,000 people in my county.
5,000, wow.
So, yeah, so little events actually make a big impact, where maybe going to a county fair in Arapahoe County or something where it's like massive population, that may not be the direction that they would want to go to try and find people. But for me, that's absolutely where I would set up an outreach table. And we have a lot of materials for our affiliates here in Colorado, and we can hand those out and get people interested, as well as sort of educate them about there is another option. This is what we stand for. You know, if you feel like you may actually stand for this rather than something else, you could give us a try. So this year I plan to have an outreach table at the county fair, but even there's smaller events, like there's a small thing called Dandelion Days, and I am actually campaigning for city council again, so I'm going to combine an outreach table. Even though I'm nonpartisan, I can still run for city council and promote my development group.
Yeah.
And so those are two different types of outreach that I have coming up this summer. Monthly, I actually have a small program, and it's called Liberty at the Library, and I'm able to live stream that into a small group for Holyoke. A lot of these little towns and communities out here have little Facebook groups, and it's one way that we all stay connected as a community. And by live streaming a program like that into that kind of group, I get hundreds of views a month. And Liberty at the Library is, I'm very passionate about books. I love to learn and I love to read. And for me, that's fun. So
Sure.
I can do all the reading, and then I can tell people in my community about what I've been reading. And then I donate the book that we discuss to the library for people to check out. And you would be surprised at how many of our books go out that we donated. It's very, very exciting. And I love that my library lets me donate these books.
Yes, that's good of them.
I've also had a few guests on that because I'm trying to form allies out here. Being a small third party, it's, challenging, especially in a really small community where, 95% of people I talk to say that they identify as like a Republican, right? So while I'm competing with like the local GOP, we don't really have so much like of the Democratic Party up here. I do like to showcase, look, we can actually work together. We align on some of these issues. And then I try not to fight about the issues that we may not fully align on, unless it's a one-on-one discussion with somebody who's just really curious about what the party of libertarianism can offer them.
So is your city council race, is that in 2022, or is it another year that it's running?
I will be on the ballot in 2022. Ballot petitions go out in August. So although I'm officially campaigning, I haven't actually secured a space on our ballot, but I can't actually do that until August 1st.
Okay, so how many signatures do you need to get on the ballot for this?
I believe
I'm sorry?
I believe that I need 40 signatures for a ballot petition, and the last time I ran, I had double that on my, I exceeded
Oh,
the
good.
ballot number by double.
Oh, good. So 40 you need. All right. We hope you can get that this year. That'd be awesome to get on the ballot.
Yeah, I definitely think I will. I've actually formed some really strategic alliances, and I'm forming a team of door knockers, both locally, and I'm going to have people come in from different areas of Colorado to do teams of door knockings at different times between August and November.
Wow, that sounds good.
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little bit more organized. I kind of know what to expect. I know what I should be doing. I know I want to at least do better than I did in the last election. Usually for our elected positions, it's rare to have, like if there's somebody quits, right? They're like, oh, I'm not rerunning. They struggle to find some people to run to fill those vacancies. But it's interesting, in 2020 and now in 2022, we have 3 seats coming up for election on the city council, only 1 incumbent, and then there's actually 6 people running, which is really rare. And the last time it was 3 seats open with 2 incumbents and 6 people running. So it was actually really contentious race and very, very unusual that people are actually stepping up for these positions. But I like to think that people are so fed up with things going on, they're like, oh, well, screw it. I'm going to stand up, and I guess I'm going to try and fix it. So it's actually better that there are people running rather than not.
Yes. So you did say the 6 that are running they're running for 3 different seats, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how many people are you going against personally for the seat you're seeking?
5. Well, I mean, there's 1 incumbent. I'm going to say that incumbent's probably going to get that seat. So then it'll be 4 of us for 2 seats. So I guess that's 2 people per seat.
So are these at large seats? Is that how it works there?
Yes.
Okay. So you said there's 3 seats, and there's 6 people, so 3 of you will get the seats, or where you come from, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think that is better odds in your favor than a setting where, in other cities where you're going against 1 or 2 people in a certain district? So would you favor it your way, or do you think the way other cities have it would be more favorable to you?
I actually think if I was competing just against 1 other person or something, that would be better odds for me. So being in a small rural community, we have a family hierarchy is kind of how things are run. And I'm kind of known as being the black sheep posture, and that can be going for me or against me. But generally, I suspect families are going to start calling shots like they did last year, which is why my cousin beat me out. And they'll say that they want the city council to change, but I don't think that they actually really do, or they wouldn't have backed my cousin over me, because since she's been on the council, she's done absolutely nothing to rock the boat. Nothing has changed. It's still the same old, and we're really starting to come up on some problems. So I hope that I have a good shot, but I'm not quite sure exactly how good of a shot I have, just because when you mix family politics into politics, it gets really sticky really quickly.
Yes, I imagine so. So do you see your cousin at family gatherings?
Have I what?
Do you see your cousin at family gatherings?
I didn't quite catch that. I'm sorry.
So do you go to family gatherings where you see your cousin that you're running against?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And she lives like, I don't know, 2 blocks over from me.
Oh, my.
Yeah, she kind of tries to avoid me because I point out things I see that she could do, but she doesn't quite have the gumption or the drive to really fight the good old boys on the council. I think she's just happy to be elected. But for instance, our infrastructure in town hasn't been touched in about 25 years.
Oh, no.
My grandpa, who likes to tell me I'm horrible for being a libertarian and think of the roads, is literally been fighting our city council about the atrocious condition of our streets. And I always tell him, all those taxes for our streets to look like this. And he'll turn and give me a dirty look. But, that's the thing is they won't spend any money on the infrastructure. And our sewage is awful. We're having massive problems dealing with the load of wastewater all the time.
No.
But they went and turned around, and they've already spent $1 million on a new fire station for a volunteer fire department. And they did have a larger budget than that, but I gummed up the works on that for them, and there was a large outcry over how big the budget was initially, and they had to cut it in half. And it was supposed to be like $500,000. Already they're up to $1 million on that project, and the firehouse isn't even fully built yet.
So, Hannah.
These are some of the actual problems within the city.
Okay, so the city has infrastructure that's not very good, and they're wasting money, and they're not wanting to change things. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Basically, our mayor decided he wants his name on a building, which when my grandpa was county commissioner, he also had that fever, and we got a bunch of buildings that were super expensive, and we're probably going to have to default on the loans for those because of the fall through of the grant. That's a nightmare and a mess.
Yeah,
that's a county level issue. But I suspect that with this fire station, we're probably going to run into those kinds of problems as well. And it's all just simply for the glory and vanity of the current mayor because he wants his name on a building. Which, if I was a mayor, I'd rather be known for actually taking care of my community and making sure that, well, the people are paying taxes for things like streets. The least we could do is make them decent and maintain them. Yeah.
That sounds like you got a good campaign ahead of you. You got good stuff going forward, so we trust it will continue to go well for you.
Yeah, thank you.
So for our audience out there, how can they support you and the Libertarian Party of Colorado and the development group and your campaign and all that?
Okay. Well, first I'll go ahead and plug the party. If you are a Colorado resident and you're interested in the Libertarian Party of Colorado, you're going to head over to lpcolorado.org. There's contact us, there's register, and there's also donate. We currently also have a merch store, which you'll find in our tabs as well. So if you're interested in supporting the party and getting our message out, merch is one way that you can do it, and we have some fantastic designers. For the development group of Phillips County, making a donation on lpcolorado.com and writing in the comments that this is specifically to help Phillips County and our activism out here, you would just put that in the comments and they would funnel it into a bank account that the party manages for my development group. And it will be able to provide me things like outreach materials, pay for my tables and booths at different fairs, and all of that would be really appreciated. To support my campaign for city council, you would go to hannahgoodman.org, and you can go ahead and hit contact us if you have any questions, or there's donate buttons on every single page of my website, and you can go ahead and donate any amount that you would like in order to help me with my campaign.
All right, so they can go to lpcolorado.org for the Libertarian Party of Colorado.
Yep.
And then if they want to donate to and support the development group, they can put a note in the donation button at the same site, lpcolorado.org. And to support your campaign, they can go to hannahgoodman.org.
Yep.
Awesome. Hannah, thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about all of the things you're doing in Phillips County in Colorado to bring forward this vision you have.
Thank you so much for having me.
We wish you all the best in your campaign and in the development of the LP Colorado Party, and we wish you all the best in all your personal and professional endeavors.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
All the best and take care.
Thanks.